is Laura with Rain Tree Nursery, and this apple espalier tree is a mess. Espaliers need really solid forms to help them hold their shape while they develop. And I thought I had found a really nice example of a solid form made out of bamboo online. I put it together, I put it in the tree, and it was way too weak. Now I've developed what I think is a really nice form, and it's also modular. I'm very excited to share it with you. We get a lot of questions at Rain Tree about how can I plant and care for an espalier if I don't have land to put it in, if I need to grow it in a pot. And I got to thinking about that. I have this espalier in a pot, and how could I create a rigid form that would support the tree, but also be mobile enough to be able to move the tree for people that don't have fences or the sides of a house to train their espalier to? And that was the genesis of this particular form. And this is the form that I came up with. It is based on a 4-inch grid utility panel that is readily available at most hardware stores or feed stores. You could use a graduated candle panel or a hog panel, anything as long as it is tall enough to support your form. It can be cut to accommodate the size of the form that you're working with. This is a cordon form where you have lateral branches, and this kind of grid structure works beautifully for a form like this. What makes this particular design work is the fact that I am using a wooden bucket as my pot. I will need to cut into the wood because the metal frame is going to sit down into 2 channels that I create in this pot. And the first order of business is to drill a hole at the top of the first metal ring of the bucket. So first I drilled out a hole at the base of my channel. And then I put a piece of masking tape to act as a guide for where I'm going to be cutting with my pruning saw to actually make my channel. I'm allowing where 2 staves come together to be one side of the channel, and then I'm going to cut the second side. For this tree, I want this panel to be 44 inches tall and 10 feet wide, so I'm going to need to do a little cutting, and that's where the handy lock cutters come into play. I've taped it off so I know where I'm going to be cutting. And it's tedious, but not hard. Because this tree had such a pronounced lean, I went ahead and I really tied it tightly to the center of the grid. In fact, it's actually touching the grid on the back. I will not keep it like this. I'm going to let it settle and assume this position for perhaps 6 months. And then when it starts to actively grow next year, I will loosen it a little bit so the tree doesn't inadvertently grow into the metal grid. And now comes the training part. Going ahead and tying the branches to the grid. Again, using a flexible tape. You don't want to tie these too tightly because, again, it will grow into the metal if it's too tight. Now we're going to give her the form she deserves. And there will be one more step after this. Last but not least, we want to make sure to level the top. Maybe you put something under the barrel if you have to. And you can see the ends are still a little loose. Now to fix that, you can go ahead and put some T-posts in the ground, tie them to the T-posts. They could be 4x4s, or if you want something totally modular, that you don't put in the ground, you could use a concrete block with a footer for your 4x4 post. And that way, if you go somewhere, you can take your Espalier with you. Thanks for joining us. It's Laura with Rain Tree Nursery, and we will see you next time.